Hola, everybody. Welcome to the Dreaming Out Loud Emotional Type Technique, the class that I've been cooking up for over a year, well, like 25 years, but I finally have put it together, and we are here today for the first free class for the folks who did the mini course, as they should, because if you're doing the free stuff, you can get this technique, you can get the basics down. And Alana Williams was the first person to send me all of her workbooks. So we'll be doing some one-to-one coaching later in this class. So for now, I want to talk about the questions that I get the most from actors. These are the things that I struggled with. These are the things that my clients struggle with in my on-camera class, in my emotional types class, in my real class, in the showcase class. These and all the surveys that you guys sent me, these are the problems. You do this prep, you think you're off book, you go in, you watch the TV show, you think you know what they want, and then you try and give it to them, right? You paid a coach, you're broke. You're taking off from your day job to go here. There's a line. You're probably gonna get fired from your day job. You've done everything to be at this audition. And then you get there and nothing happens. I've been here, and I have been in that place in the world of television and film for 10 years. It was not pretty. I had 50 regional and off-Broadway credits and no TV and film. I was auditioning, I couldn't get arrested. Okay, it was, I would get into the room, and this is the experience that folks have shared with me, is that they would get into the room and then start talking, and they have the eyes of the reader across from them. It's usually a casting person, and they know their lines and they're talking to them, and it's like the lines are landing on that person, but they don't hear you. And it's kind of like the Twilight Zone. You start working more and more and more and more so that what you have to say or what you're trying to get from the protagonist is landing. And your sense is that it's not landing. And the language, you use language, right, as an actor, especially in television and film, to get something. But all of a sudden, when you're working, what you're trying to get becomes muddy. And it's something about the camera, but it's also about the way in which you go into the audition, right? Do you go into the audition trying to give them what they want? That's the first problem. Trying to give them what they want is the first problem, right? And Alana and I were just talking about this before class started, this idea that, oh, the industry has an idea of what, you know, a girl is light skin with green eyes and wavy hair, what she should be playing. And then the industry has an idea about what a dark skinned girl with natural hair should be playing. And that's what we have to work with. Okay, that's one way to treat the industry. So what do they want? Let me go in and give them what they want. And plenty of people are working like that. You can totally do that. But if you're at Fuck It, and you're sitting here in class with me, it's because you have figured out that you have tried to give them what they want, and they don't want it. It's like, and they don't want it, and you try to give it to them because what they want is not organic to you. It's not true to you. It's not your truth. Black girl number 4 behind the register with an attitude is somebody you might be on Sunday afternoon, but it's not who you are as a human being. But guess what? That's all the roles that they're offering. So it's not always an audition technique thing, especially actors who have training. It's actually about the parts are insubstantial, and you're richer, deeper, more complicated in your humanity than the parts. And that's what we're going to explore with the emotional types today. The second question, and I'm going to share my screen again with you guys, that I constantly get from folks is, I want my agent to fight for auditions for roles that I was born to play, not officer number 6 without a name. Just the credit is officer number 6. Of course I got paid, but officer number 6 is not going up for series regulars. Okay? This is a common problem. You can stay in officer number 6, nurse number 47, patient number 18 for a long time in your career. Now, unless you were born to play officer 13 or nurse number 6, that's a problem. That's a problem. Okay? So what you need to solve that problem is for agents to submit you for more complicated, weightier things. Okay? But they're like, oh, but I'm dealing with how you look. There's only this amount of work for how you look. And I was like, well, if we just waited on that, Black people would have never worked. We just started getting roles only because Black writers started writing for TV, right? So that can't be the final answer, right? How I look. Your agents are dying for you to give them ideas about how to get you seen more, because the more you get seen, the better chance for them to make money. Okay? So again, we come into this problem of, I want to give the industry what they want, and thinking that you're going to build a career that way. Now, I am all for you trying it, and that is what the actor training programs tell us to do. Give them what they want. Now, you have done that. Go do that. I did that for 10 years. I gave them what they wanted, right? And I starved, because the complexity of who I was not what was selling, given my physical type, meaning Black girl, number 3, right? So you can do one of two things. You can accept the little bits and crumbs that the industry gives you, or you can come up with a business strategy to show them what you have is valuable and marketable. And it's a way to make money. And the way that you do that is you give your agents a business strategy where they can double the amount of auditions they send you on. Because the more you audition, the more you book. All right? And the better the auditions are. Okay? So I have a question in chat. Let's see what this question is. Somebody had a question for me? Hi, Soyini. Oh, Anthony, you're not getting any sound. You want to try? You might want to try and unmute the video and let me know how that works. Everybody else can hear me okay, right? Great. All right. So, hi, Soyini. Okay. All right. So, where was I? All right. So, again, giving away your power and counting on what they think they want. And most of the time, casting directors say this all the time, I don't know what I want. Actors give me the idea. But going into an industry going, what do they want? That might be the only thing. And then once you've established that you are unable to give them what they want, or what they want is not challenging or interesting to you, then you got to come up with another plan. Okay? And this feeds right into the next problem that I got. What do you do when there's not enough work for your type and you need to convince your reps and CDs to take a chance on the artist and not just the type? And what I mean by taking a chance on the artist is taking a chance on the complicated humanity that you already have, and all of the stuff that you could probably play beautifully, but you're not given a chance to, because the physical type says 65-year-old Asian man, or it says 30-something white girl. But you're like, I'm reading the breakdown and I understand this woman. I understand this woman fighting for her child. I understand her feeling defeated by the system. I understand her struggle. Okay? And when you look at a character and you're like, I understand their struggle, you're on to something. You're on to your emotional chords. You are on to the things that move you. When you watch a scene and you cry, when you watch a scene and you laugh hysterically, right? When you watch a scene and it stays with you for weeks and weeks and weeks and it never leaves you, there's something in that scene that is triggering something deep in your emotional heartbeat, okay, of how you're built, how you're made. And I believe that these emotional chords are the life lessons that you were put here to get right in this lifetime. Now, Hindu believe in, people coming back in different lifetimes, past lifetimes, and you keep coming back and keep coming back until you get it right, right? So you learn what you're meant to learn. If you don't believe in that, you can think of emotional cords as the things in your ancestral memory that your ancestors were not able to do, but you now have the tools to do. You now have the tools to solve those problems, right? For example, my great-grandmother would have me read the Light Bill, the Miami Times, which is a Black newspaper, the Miami Herald, out loud. Sit on the steps, go to neighbors' houses and read stuff out loud for them. And they'd be like, look, she taught just like you, white girl. This is how. And I thought they were just like, I was just being a poppy show. Until I got older, and a couple of my neighbors told me that was so important for them, and they knew what to pay the man down at Live and Let Live, which is the pharmacy, where people paid their bills. And I was like, what? Because they didn't know how to read. My great-grandmother wasn't just sending me to those people's stores. Ouch, Sabesha. She wasn't just sending me to those stores because to the store or to people's houses to read stuff for them because I was a poppy show. My family had invested in this one kid. It was like, there's a bunch of us for generation after generation who could not read. That's going to stop in her generation. We are going to give her the tools to solve that problem. And that's what I mean by ancestral memory. What is in your ancestral memory? The hopes, wishes, and dreams that your parents have for you or your grandparents had for you, that are things they were never able to do, that you have in your life right now, and it's easy for you to do. Like, what is that? Latch a hold of that. That's an emotional cord, okay? My grandparents put within me reading to people, being literate, being able to conceptualize problems by reading out loud and solving them was something they wanted to give me because they didn't have it. And you know that you're in your emotional cords when the thing that you were given to do is easy for you. It's easy for you. So you don't even get that what you're doing is hard for somebody else. And they're like, that's amazing. That's amazing the way you understand that. That's amazing. And I'm like, wow. Yeah, everybody knows how to do that. No, they don't. And we miss our emotional cords because the thing that we know how to do or the lesson that we are mastering in this lifetime, it was hard for us, but now we've gotten through it and we're stronger and we're better. So part of the emotional cords exercise is to take an inventory of your life, to take an inventory at the challenges and the obstacles that you've come across, because those things, those problems are the things that when you're watching a movie, when you're watching a play, those are the things that move you. Ouch. Okay? I'm going to pause for a moment. All right, I'm back. So this first step, and if you've done the Dreaming Out Loud mini course, which I hope everybody has done, and I have gotten feedback. Look, y'all all looking at me like, yeah, made me do that shit. This shit was hard. I just know I've gotten the grumbles. They were like, I thought this was going to be easy. I downloaded the workbook, and they were like, I'm stuck on one question for 2 days. I was like, because you're taking a personal inventory of your life. Like, you're taking a personal inventory of your life. You know how every year people do these New Year's resolutions? Anthony was like, busted. I'm like, yeah, I know you busted. We make New Year's resolutions without taking an inventory of the life we've been living. If you're in my Badass Actor group or on my Instagram page, you know that I have posted a post. It's purple, little meme, and it says, brag to me about something that you accomplished in 2018. That's a part of taking a personal inventory. Because the things that you have accomplished are lessons that you've conquered. They are things you've been struggling with and you've mastered, right? One person came to me and they're like, oh, I finished grad school, right? And I didn't want to go to grad school in the first place. So for me to finish something that I set out to do, one, was a challenge, but to finish something that's my dream, which is to act, which I always thought was impossible, was amazing for me. And I was like, that's an amazing inventory, right? You did something that you expected you could not. You did something, you accomplished something that terrified you. That's an emotional cord. So I'm going to send you out to watch movies and to look for that. Look for that. Because the underdog that wins, who wasn't expected to win, is a cord. That's what that's about, right? So cords, your emotional cords, are not your 4 major emotional types, right? A cord is a recurring emotional problem, right? But your actual emotional type is specific to you. So it may be the underdog who didn't expect the win, the underdog who's an innocent that's always operating from a place of I'm invisible. And when someone sees them, it breaks their heart. Now we're getting more specific, right? And how the emotional type occurs has to do with this process of us doing this dreaming out loud technique. It's more than just one question. People listen to me all the time, like, oh, I watched a scene, I know my type. I was like, really? It was on TV? I was like, because you're more complicated than that, right? We talk about seeds, but that's just one piece of the emotional type exercise. And when Alana and I work through the first 5 steps today, you're going to see more, okay? But I want to go back to this idea of power, because none of this works if you don't believe you have the power to change your career. None of this works. It's all bullshit if you don't feel powerful. I have taught the emotional types to people and then they never went and built the website and had a conversation with their agents. I ain't gonna mention no names. But I was like, I was really glad to take your like $2,500, but I would have been much happier if you actually created an emotional brand and stopped doing theater for $200 a week and crying poor mouth. I was like, that makes no sense. I was like, so I realized in this time around with the emotional cords, we need a component in which you understand that learning your emotional cords is a power play. It makes you the CEO of your career. You now understand that, oh, my agent and my manager, they work for me. I have to direct the strategy that they use to get me more work. I'm the one that's going to book the work and make everybody money. They're just submitting applications, right? So I have to guide them in this process of submitting applications. And the best way to get someone in business to buy into your plan is to make them a part of it, which is what the emotional cords exercise, emotional type exercise is about. You learn how to get a language to begin communicating with your team, and you call team meetings and you set an agenda and you walk them through it and you give them press kits and you give them a point-by-point list of talking points. You sell them on how powerful this idea is. You get them excited and you solve the problem for them. They're going to be behind you 150%. The problem is that artists often feel like they don't have power. So they walk into a meeting, and this is another problem. My agent don't do this. My agent don't do that. They not submitting me. I went to that audition, and then there were 4 of my friends in there, and I was going in for the small part, but all my friends are going in for the big part. Why didn't my agent get me seen for that? And I was like, they tried. You didn't give them any equipment. You gave them a lame headshot. You gave them no reel or a shitty reel. You didn't give them any of your emotional types. You didn't give them anything to fight for you. So yeah, it might be some of their parts, but you can fire them. So I'm going to talk a minute about, well, I'm not going to talk a minute about power. This class exists now, and all the work I've done with the workbooks exists now because of Hillary Ward, who you're going to hear from now, Angela Lewis, Brittany Mirabile, Modesto Lassen, Sharice Booth, who you must see in Fabulation, running off Broadway at the Signature right now, who sat in a class for me, and they're like, you need to make this into an online class and then an annual class. It needs to be 12 weeks. They took the class with me, and it changed the careers. So I'm going to let Hillary talk now, because Hillary had real life experience with, I had no power. I started working on my chords and I got a ton of power. And now I'm a recurring. So I'm going to let her talk to you, because this is how she talked to me when she told me to do this class.
Hello, badasses. My name is Hillary Ward, and I'm here to talk to you about working with April Yvette Thompson. April and I have known each other for a long time. When I called her, it was after I had been particularly frustrated. I booked a small but supporting role in what was going to be a excellent, high caliber film that was made for Prestige Cable Network. And I got to set, everything was going great. I was getting feedback about my dailies from everybody, from the wardrobe assistant to the director who chased me down and told me what a powerful force I am on screen. So I'm thinking, great. I wrap up filming, I get to the premiere in my new dress, I walk the carpet, I got my diamonds, I had my makeup done. We sit down, the lights go down in the theater and the Paramount lot, and I show up in the first 30 seconds and I'm really excited. I see my face, and then the movie goes and goes and goes, and all of my scenes with this big A-list star that I had shot, that I've been getting all this great feedback about, they all got cut. And I knew why. It's because the film wasn't about me. You know, I was playing the wife of someone who was already an important but supporting character. And the director even came up to me after the premiere and said, I know that we did all of this great work, but if I was making a 3-hour movie, that would be one thing, but I'm making a 2-hour movie, so I'm so sorry, your scenes had to go. And I couldn't get them. And so I called April and I was frustrated, and I was thinking, I'm embarrassed and I'm frustrated. I thought I was going to have this amazing tape. I thought that I was going to be able to hand this to my team and say, like, let's go get him. Look, I have this great tape with a household name. So now it shows that I'm ready for these roles, right? I'm ready to go to the next level. But that didn't happen. While I was talking to April, she said, well, why don't you write something for yourself? And I did her exercise about finding your emotional chords, and I realized that an idea that I had while I was waiting around in my trailer on set was the perfect vehicle for me to not only play one of my chords, but also it was a story that I was really passionate about telling. And so she put me on a writing schedule. This was in June. By September, I was at her home for a retreat. We banged out the script for a short, which we realized probably was more likely the climax of a feature. So she put me on a writing schedule again. A few months later in May, we were doing another writer's retreat where I was able to get the next draft done. And I'm still working through revisions of that. But what's interesting is that through this whole process, what I'm starting to learn more and more is that outer experience is an expression of inner reality. Okay, so as my inner reality shifted, my experience in the business began to shift, as I understood that I am not an actor who has to wait around for someone to choose her and then to choose to keep her scenes in the film in order for me to have a career. I'm not that actor. Actually, I can be a person who is a creator. I can be a writer. I can be a producer. I can be a collaborator. I don't just have to be an actor who's waiting around for the phone to ring, who is doing her best at auditions and then giving away all of her power. So the first thing I did was I talked to my agent at the time and I said, hey, so I know we don't have the tape. That's a bummer. I still have this great credit. Half of these people don't even subscribe to HBO. They're not going to know. They're not going to see it. What are we going to do? How are we going to leverage this credit? And also, I need to know what my rate is now. Okay, because I'm starting to get these great guest star auditions. I'm starting to get auditions for major recurrings. And so we need to have a number in mind when we go to them. I want to make sure that we're all on the same page. And I threw out some ideas to him of what I thought we should be asking, because I asked what my friends were getting. His response to me was, well, I always try to get you more money every job. We'll cross that bridge when we come to it. So not 2 days later, I booked my first recurring guest star. I got a $50 raise from what I have been earning a day as a co-star. $50. So I fired him. Now, a lot of people would think that was crazy. I did not have another agent lined up. Hadn't even taken meetings. I didn't know what I was going to do, but I knew if the next job did come in and I had to give him a commission on it, I was going to resent it. I wasn't going to be happy about it. And I felt like I was selling myself short by sticking in a relationship that I was like, this person doesn't value me. He doesn't see my career going the same place that I see my career going. And that means that we can't collaborate anymore. So I fired him. And I took a bunch of meetings. I called all my friends. I said, who are you going to refer me to? All my friends who had careers that I admired, the careers that I was aspiring to. I said, okay, I need help getting into the door. And so they helped me set up meetings. And I took a bunch of meetings. And in the first 6 months, I got no agent. But I stuck with it. And in January of the next year, I got an agent. Now, I got an agent in January, the time that everybody says it's crazy. You can't even get a meeting with an agent. It's silly to try. That's when I got my meeting with my agent, and then I signed with them a week later. Okay? So, first of all, there are no impossibles. It's just because it happened to somebody else doesn't mean it's going to happen to you. Okay? You can make your own way. So I signed with this agency, and not a month later, I booked a major recurring on a limited series that's coming up. It's going to be, we filmed all year, but it's coming up next year. And I thought, great, here we go. What's next? And since then, since booking this major recurring, I've booked a great juicy Tabba Show guest on a network show that will also be recurring. Again, not buzzy, but it's great money. It's longevity. It means that I don't have to do a day job in between. And I've also been able to work on some really high quality new media projects. Now, what's exciting to me about the new media stuff is that I'm working with people who have produced at the highest echelon. So we're talking the producers of Black Swan. Okay. And no one under 14 watches TV on TV. They're all watching it on YouTube. And for me to be able to collaborate with these people who are working at that level on where very much the future of our industry is, in my opinion, going to be, is very exciting to me. And I feel like I'm getting it on the ground floor. Now, through all of this, I've continued to write. I've continued to create. And again, it's that idea that outer experience is reflected by inner reality. So now, when my team gets on the phone and they're talking about, oh, well, this is the way we need to position Hillary for these projects, and we need to let this person know that she's in first position for this. I mean, they're talking like I'm already this heavy mover and shaker, because they understand that's where it's going. It's inevitable, because we've all stepped it up. And if that doesn't come from you, then your team doesn't know where to follow, right? Or the team is not going to reflect that, because that has to come from you. And when I'm not shooting, when I'm in between acting jobs, I'm not sitting around waiting for the phone to ring. I'm continuing to work on generating my own work. And so in that spirit, April and I were having a conversation about, okay, you've got the script, now you need to figure out what you're going to do to develop it. How are you going to raise money? Well, I've never done that. I was like, I don't know how to go to a TV executive and pitch a script that I've written and sell it to them with me attached as a lead. I've never done that before. So what did I do? I reached out to my friends who are executive producers, who are showrunners, who are co-producers, and I said, hey, how do I do this? I've got 30 minutes. I'll take 30 minutes of your time. I'll buy you lunch. I'll buy you coffee. Can you sit down and talk to me about what you think I need to do, or the people that you think I need to know? Or can I talk through my pitch with you? Can you give me feedback on that? I was able to talk to the showrunner on Stranger Things. I was able to talk to a co-executive producer on Arrow. I was able to talk to a multi-Emmy award winning writer on Veep. I was able to talk to an Emmy award writer on The Handmaid's Tale. I was able to talk to the showrunner and creator of the web series Guidance. And that was all because the people that I'm reaching out to, they understand that A, I'm not wasting their time, and B, that if I'm asking these questions, I'm not asking them to give me a job. I'm asking them how I become a better collaborator, and they're willing to take that meeting because they know that even though I'm sitting in their office today, they could just as easily be sitting in my office 5 years from now. And that it's about building those long-term relationships and working, finding the people that are on the same page, finding the people that are serious. And April is the person who was able to make me realize what I have to bring to the table and to put that forward. So I am driving the direction of my career, and I'm not getting buffeted about by whatever trend comes up, or whatever job happens to be available, or whatever scandal, or whatever people think that Black girls are in right now, because that's not the point. I'm not here for a trend. I'm here for the long haul. So, badasses, this is your leader. Go find her, be brave, be bold, and stand up for yourself and stand up for your dreams. Hello, badasses. My name.
She makes me so happy. So I want to hear from you guys. I'm going to unmute you just so we can have a little back and forth. And I want you to tell me what it is that Hillary got from the emotional chords exercise that made all these things possible. What did she get?
I feel like Hillary found a sense of power within her. I mean, it was just really like amazing to listen to her, that so you can tell the people on your team like how to work, because it's always been the other way around. You sit by the phone and wait for them to call you and tell you like, you need a headshot like this, you need to look like this, you need to have that. And I was like, oh, wait a minute, she's in the driver's seat.
Yep. Anybody else?
What I got from her is that not only she believed in her power, and that she didn't give up. She kept, no matter how things didn't work out, for like 6 months, she kept going until she got an agent, and it didn't go according to how people think. So, you just have to keep believing in yourself, believing what you have.
She got that self-confidence from relying from outside sources of telling her what she was doing and relying on the decisions of other people. She decided to rely on her own decisions, on what she can do to move forward, and didn't get bogged down by whatever is going on in the world around her.
Yep. I'll take one more comment. Anybody else? All right, then. I'm going to keep moving. I'm going to add to what she got. Because when you do the emotional chords exercise, what it's about is a personal inventory of what you're good at. Okay? And once you do that inventory and you spend a good 3 months with me, that's about how long it takes, doing that personal inventory and then doing a profile of how badass you are, then you sit back and you go, oh, what you're trying to hand me is not good enough, right? And the first thing that I have all of my clients do is, I don't believe that self-love is an affirmation. I don't believe it's some exercises you do in your handbook, in your journal. That may be where you start. That is not where you learn self-love and self-confidence. Self-love is a series of actions you take in your own behalf. Let me say that again. Self-love comes from you taking a series of actions in your own behalf. An example is, I always give my clients an assignment. I know some people who are online right now are like, she sure does. I was like, we're going to learn about it and you're going to do the workbook. Then I'm going to actually go do something in the real world. I'm going to go ask you to ask a casting director a question. I'm going to ask you to ask your agents what they think your trajectory is for you. I'm going to ask you to go do something. I'm going to ask you about what offers you have on the table now. And I'm going to ask you to talk through whether or not they're worthy of you. That's how you get confidence and self-love. That's how you get badass and start asking for what you deserve, because you finally know of what you're made, right? By doing these emotional chords. So I'm going to go back to what that exercise is. Your emotional type are the 4 major lessons you were put here to get right in this lifetime. Okay? If it's the ancestral memory, it's everything your ancestors have given you that they couldn't do. All right? I love this expression. I see it in memes all the time. I am every enslaved African American's wildest dream. I am every enslaved African American's wildest dream. They took the whipping. They took the mid-Atlantic crossing. They took the beatings. They took the Klan. They took the lynchings. So I could be here right now and have internet for free. Now, what the fuck am I going to do with what they gave me? That's the personal inventory. And I'll give you a key when I'm working with folks who are writing, which all actors should be writing, is I actually have people go back and interview their ancestors and get stories about their ancestors. Because once you see what people had to do to get you where you are, it gives you a completely different perspective on the world. You actually now understand, I am the master here. I have all this at my feet. They have nothing. Look what I can do. That's all the emotional chords exercise is about. It's a full inventory of all the gifts that you already have inside that you are not mining. So we're going to list them, okay? And when we list them, then we're going to put them into a form that this industry can understand. Because I do the emotional type exercise with my writers, with business people, with the women who took the Morocco retreat. It is an exercise about personal empowerment and purpose. When you know your 4 major life lessons that you were put here to master in this lifetime, and you know all the gifts you have, and then you also make a list of all the stuff you're not doing that you really want to be doing, it's power in your hands. It's the big picture that you're no longer giving away because you're creating a complete picture of who you are. It is your life's purpose. And when you are operating from your life's purpose, you go into a meeting with an agent going, so what you gonna do? I got a life purpose to get done. This is my purpose. This is what I was put here to do. What you gonna do? What you gonna do? Right? Hillary looks like a little baby. She has a real baby face. She's a grown woman. So they try and cast her in little baby face things. Hillary's like, my emotional cord is that I am a woman who will go through the woods and cut you down if you are trying to harm my child, my innocent. I am aware for truth and what is right, and always being on the side of what is right. And I'm really good at it when I am a mama bear fighting for someone who is unable to fight for themselves. It's a very specific chord, right? It means that she goes into an audition completely differently. It means that they want to send her out for stuff for little chippies. Chippies are what I call, little girls with lots of weaves and hair and, not much to say. But she's a force of nature, okay? She's a force of nature. That's her emotional type. Once I gave her that information, she gave me all the answers to the questions. And I was like, oh, the emotional cord looks like this. And the type looks like this. And then she filled in the blank. She was like, oh my God, you're right. I was like, go out there. She's like, why have I been putting up with this shit? Why have I been putting up with an agent that I'm going on 17 auditions a week, ain't booking nothing, and they can't ask for more money from me, and I'm making the same amount of money for the last 10 years? Hell no, they're getting fired. Now, I didn't tell her to fire her agent, but I did help her understand and see her worth. The emotional types exercise is a set of strategies that I put in place to allow you to see what I'm seeing. I'm seeing your badass magic, and you are operating from I'm broke down instead of I have badass magic. Right? I have personal magic. There are certain gifts that were given to me based on my history. And each time I master a challenge, speaking up for myself, fighting for my peace, right? Owning my vulnerability and asking for help. Whatever the chords are, acknowledging them and then expecting them to be received positively and getting what you want as a result. That's what builds self-love. That's what builds confidence. And then the emotional type exercise gives you the language to convey that to your team. It gives you the language to talk to directors in an audition when they're redirecting you. And you're like, no, what's really going on here? And that's not a way that they ever would have looked at the character. Your confidence comes from self-knowledge. And it was my clients who told me, you need to be teaching this to people. I just thought, oh, I'm just teaching this thing. They were like, no, you need to put together a class. It needs to have an online version. You can do private coaching, but not everybody can afford private coaching. But you need to put something together that people can afford and drive them through this process. And I was like, okay, well, it's going to be 6 weeks. They're like, no, it needs to be a 12-week class. I was like, well, okay. They were like, it needs to look like this because it changed me. And you're going to meet some of them. Now, before I go forward, I want to know, are there any questions? Anybody got any questions at all? Nope.
Not right now.
Okay, great.
Just excited.
I'm hard. Okay. Now, so you have this power now. You start understanding your chords. Let's look at how this actually works in real time. Now, Alana Williams did the Dreaming. I don't think I had even posted the exercise and pressed publish yet before Alana had been like, so where's the mini course? I was like, okay, Alana, I'm coming. She's like, where's the mini course? Because I want to be the person that gets my work in first, and I want to be the person that gets the one-to-one coaching. So you're going to meet Alana, and she and I are going to go through the first steps of the exercise.
Oh, sorry. Yeah, sorry.
That's okay.
Hi.
All right. Hi, Alana.
Hello.
How are you? Thank you for
Still
joining.
under the weather. Okay.
So I know you have a bunch of these workbooks and stuff in front of you. And what I'm going to do is walk you through some of these exercises. And I want you to explain to me what you have learned by the process. Does that make sense?
Yeah.
All right. It'll make more sense when I start asking questions.
Yeah, when you start answering, we'll totally know. No, it's not.
Awesome.
So, should I start from the mini course? Because that was one of the most interesting things that I first started recognizing.
Great.
Especially that lovely question that said, "What are you pretending that you? What are you pretending to not know?" Like, yeah. Yeah, that one was really telling. Mind you, the answer was pretending not to know what tools I needed to actually further myself in this industry. I know the tools. I just don't know how to package it.
Great.
So I pretend like I don't know how to use Twitter or Facebook or Instagram. I pretend I don't know, but I know. I know.
Why do you think you pretend?
Because it keeps me in a safe space and at a point, not a safe space. I understand that by me not knowing, I get to justify where I am in my place right now.
Oh, ouch. Yeah.
And that's the truth. And I'm harsh about myself. And that's the truth. I'll be okay with being where I am, being still at this low level acting where I know I'm much higher. But by me pretending that I don't know, it's comfortable.
Wow. Anthony's like, wow, what? Okay. That is what the mini course is about. It's about dreaming out loud. When you start answering these questions, what am I afraid of? 25 things that you love. And then you have to download workbooks and then write it. Or you have to do morning pages, because I believe in writing longhand. I do. Yeah. Because it allows you to think and conceptualize about what you're actually putting on the page. And then you have to say that shit out loud and be like, oh, wow, that is actually what I'm living out. But I could do better. Right? I had different responses from people. It's very interesting that question caught you. Okay, so that's a clue for me. Angela says social media is your friend. If
you haven't noticed, since doing this book, I've started my social media. I'm on Twitter tweeting, and it's like, okay, I gotta just jump in this and do it.
So let's go back to the chords, because it's actually much more about the emotional fears underneath all of these questions. Okay. It's not about knowing how to do social media. Yeah. It's about owning, I don't know, so I don't have to do anything. That's the beginning of an emotional chord. So let's take note of that. What did you figure out in mini course 2?
The mini course 2 in which one? No, hold on.
Mini course 2 was all questions. Number 1 was the list and the morning pages. Number 2 were the questions.
Yeah.
And to compare things that kept coming up in your answers to the questions, like, what are you pretending not to know? Mm-hmm. If you had all the money and all the time in the world, what would you be doing? How would you want to be remembered? What adjectives or ideas kept coming up in the answers to those questions, but that also came up in your morning pages?
It came up of being calmer, of having less stress. Because in my morning pages, it was a lot of, I'm stressed out, I can't believe what I'm doing too much. This, a lot about my day job right now. My day job is sort of crushing me at this point. And then what kept coming into the questions was, I'm going to be calmer. I would be much more calmer, more relaxed. One with the universe, I believe, is one thing I said. Yeah, one with the universe. And those two things kept colliding with the questions and the morning pages.
Okay. Awesome.
My limiting beliefs both came in, both the lists, they keep coming up. Some of them I thought I had gotten rid of them a long time ago, but they're still there. Such as the age factor also comes in, even though Black don't crack, and I'll make jokes about it all the time. But age is always a factor for me. A lot of external things. One is me being too, I guess, thick, fat. I won't call myself fat, but bigger. And one of the interesting ones is that how intelligent I am, because it's been a comment that has come to me and I believe I'm intelligent and that I'm very smart. But in the same vein, people have said, oh, you're so intelligent, how can you be an actor? And so it's that double-edged sword. But I feel like actors are intelligent. I don't know if I'm making any sense right now.
No, because you were talking about limiting beliefs. Limiting beliefs are absolutely a part of what are you pretending not to know, right? You're pretending not to know a lot of things that are important to you because you are limiting yourself by these things. I'm too big, I'm too smart, but before you can toss those out, you actually have to clearly identify them, right? So just listening to you talk right now, okay? I can think of 4 or 5 parts you could play, right? Because it's like, oh, she understands the girl who can't see how amazing she is because she's listening to other people's idea of what amazing is, right? She gets in her own way because she's so smart and she has all these gifts, right? So what she's going to do is just not do anything because there's so many things she could be doing. Just tell me if I'm at any point that I'm wrong. I'm not going to do social media. I'm not going to, I could multitask and do all of this if I wanted to, but it doesn't. Like that inaction by being overwhelmed by what you know to be truly who you are versus what you're hearing from the outside world. And the first few steps of the emotional type is for you to vomit on the page all this shit that is other people's shit and not your shit. All of it. It's not yours. It's a gift that has been handed to you that you can now give back so you can focus on your gifts. Okay? I want to go to the next part of the exercise. Alana has purchased the mastermind group. So she's already started the first 3 modules. And the way that the class works is that you do all the modules of homework before you meet with me, and you send me the homework, and then you and I sort through them. So I've already received Alana's homework because she did the worksheets. So the questions that I am asking her have everything to do with the worksheets that she submitted to me, right? It's a much more constructive way of working. It's like working with a private coach. So the next piece that we went into were psychology, okay? So now that we've looked at fears, now that we've looked at limiting beliefs, we're gonna look at the psychological things that go on in a person's head that creates those limiting beliefs, all right? And those fears. Because sorting those out, it's when you play a character, for example, the director always asks you, who is this person? Who is this person? What are they afraid of? What do they want? What do they love? That's the psychology of the person, okay? There is a way for you as an artist to get a hold of what your psychological nature is. You should already be looking at characters that way. But before you look at characters that way, you've got to understand what your psychological makeup is. So that you bring a complication to every character you approach, right? So I give the example all the time of Chad Boseman in Black Panther, playing T'Challa. Now, we could have had Michael B. Jordan play that role, but he wouldn't have played it like Chad. Because Chad's emotional chords are about, I am going to be vulnerable and tell you what I need, and then I'm going to hold you accountable for that ask. And when you don't measure up, I'm going to cut you. So I'm going to give you a chance to show up. That is Chad's emotional chords. If you look at the James Brown movie, those scenes with him and Viola Davis, where, you know, he's got this mama who just cannot get it right. She's too busy running off with other people. And at a certain point, he cuts her off. He's like, I gave you many opportunities to show up for me, mama. At no point does he cuss her out, holler at her, call it this, call it that. Another actor may have approached those scenes completely differently. Chad's emotional chord is, I'm going to lead with my vulnerability because that's actually my power. and then I'm gonna let you just fuck yourself up on that. I'm gonna tell you, this is how I feel, and this is what I need, and you get to show up for that. Or, and if you don't, I am going to limit our contact. Even though you're my mama, I will send a check to take care of you. That's a real chord. It's what makes his work so unique. T'Challa is the same. He was so soft-spoken and vulnerable. He has this huge crush on Lupita's character. And he actually just lets it hang out. And it becomes funny. Because you're like, I like this guy. He could just be like, I think she's so fine, I can't talk. And it's really cute, and it's lovely, and it's warm, and you start to cheer for him because he's had the courage to show you he's vulnerable. I think she's really hot, and I'm probably not cool enough for her, even though I'm the king, right? Somebody else would have played that differently. He enters the character through his vulnerability because he sees his vulnerability as a form of power and not as something that detracts from him. Michael B. Jordan is the underdog, always looking for war. He's always wanting more, but he always also expects it to be a war in which the chances of him losing might be very high. That's how he approaches characters. Fruitvale Station, boxing movie, that's his approach. It makes it really interesting because then you spend the whole movie watching him struggle and not knowing if he's going to win. Even though we all watch Hollywood movies, we know they always win. But we don't know what Michael. We just know we're going to have a good time watching him fight for it. Those are actors who book the job because they don't come in trying to give you what you need. They come in with their emotional cords clear and how they operate psychologically. So when you did the astrological chart, I asked, the next exercise was I asked folks to do the astrological chart, and I asked folks to look at their sun sign, moon sign, and their rising sign. Because astrology is what Carl Jung figured out the whole system of psychotherapy around. It's like horoscope descriptions are nothing more than psychological profiles. So if you can use them to your advantage, use them. The moon sign is how you work emotionally. It's the part of yourself you don't share with anybody, which is why it's a juicy sign to start with, figuring out some of your emotional cords. So what did you discover about the moon sign?
Oh gosh, about my personal moon sign? Ooh, I was like, oh, why does it know me so well? I kept laughing. So my moon sign, so everybody knows, not just it, is Aries.
Wow.
Though my sun sign is a Virgo.
Wow.
So everyone who knows Virgos, once again, intelligent track, intelligent, smart, quiet, very humble, very introverted. Many people, when they first meet me, that's the first impression. But finding that my moon sign is Aries, I was like, that's everything I don't let out to everybody. Very spontaneous, daring, active, optimistic. Yeah, wow, this is real talk. So I don't always show my optimistic side to everyone. There's people, so everything will be okay, and being very happy and bubbly is not what I show everybody. Mostly just my core family. But hi, everybody. Now all of you guys know. Being proud and egotistic, because I have a huge ego, and I know it, about who I am, what I'm capable of doing, and if you don't respect me in terms of where I am, bye-bye. It's a very not cutthroat. What is the word I want to say?
Black and white.
Let's use it. Cutthroat. Response that I do have internally. And I don't let it out all the time. I don't, though it's there. Because I can smile at you and hate you so much. and be able to respond and be with you and work with you for several years, like I have with one person at my job. Absolutely hate them. They have no idea. They have no idea.
Ooh, chords are coming out. And the the rising sign are the set of strategies you use in the world to get what you want. And what sign is that?
The rising sign, that is after many. The simple answer is Scorpio, but it's a little wavering. And I'm telling you this why, because when I've talked to my parents, because finding your rising sign, you have to know your birth time.
Oh, okay.
And so in terms of my birth time, my parents said, well, it was a little after 11 or it was around noon. And between 11 and noon, the signs changed. They changed from Scorpio to Sagittarius.
So I think what you need to do in your notes is to do both of them and just get your top 10 adjectives.
I did. I did both of them. So in Scorpio, though, the more I research Scorpio now, I'm like, I'm probably more Scorpio, which is strong-willed, passionate, intelligent, jealous, possessive, yeah, really possessive, secretive, focused, charming, loyal, protective, and I wrote passionate twice. So
it makes me think of when you said Virgos are very be polite, don't show people anything bad about yourself. Your moon sign is actually like, fuck it. Everything is funky and I come first. Great. Okay. I only say this because my moon sign is Aries as well. And Scorpio, and then you said about Aries, are very, very cutthroat. So is Scorpio. I love you or I don't. There is no gray.
no.
There's nothing nebulous about it. If I love you to death. I will go down fighting for you. If I don't, if I never see you again in this lifetime, I'm good. I hope you are as well. Right?
Yeah. Yep.
All right, so we're really getting some character profiles. I want to go on to the True Node North, and then I want you to tell me your first couple of scenes. The True North are the 4 life lessons you were put here to get right. They are the opposite of how you are currently functioning. That's why it sucks and it's so great. What were, just in a few sentences, what came up as your true node?
My true north is Gemini. So it is trying to commit to stay in one place, coming with a community, being part of a community. That is to absorb all this information. This is where intelligence is going to come back. Loves learning, trying to get the being with people. I'm finding a loss for words right now, or they're all coming out at the same time.
Actually, also, it's, well, because your true node is what you're not doing. The lesson in this life is to move closer to those things. So it's very interesting that in answering the questions, you talked about intelligence, you're moving away from that being somebody else's idea, not necessarily yours. And then you talked about not doing social media or pretending like you didn't know. Those are both things that have to do with denying the hyper intelligent part of yourself. And your true north is saying, move towards those. Because as you move towards those, your life's purpose and the lessons you're supposed to conquer are going to get solved. So you see how the pieces are actually starting to fit in the different places that you're warring with your strategies of moving in the world, the way you're getting shit done? Different parts of you are at war and they're asserting themselves. And very interestingly, your sun and your moon, what you show the world and what you feel inside, are night and day. They are actually polar opposites. That must be exhausting. But what kind of amazing characters do you play, right? So let's get to that. What was the first scene? First scene.
Okay, first scene. First
scene that moved you beyond words.
Okay, we're going to sit down and I'm just going to tell story time. First scene, it's my favorite scene in the entire world. The Interpreter. It's from the movie Interpreter, starring Nicole Kidman and Sean Penn.
Okay.
It is the scene right after Nicole Kidman has just escaped from a bus bomb in Harlem, and Sean Penn brings her back to her apartment and actually confronts her about her past, because she has some shady past. And at this point, this whole time, even us as a viewer, she's very contained. She's very what she shows in that outside world. I know. I started noticing it. There's a couple other films on that list that's just like that. On this outside world. And at this point, she breaks down. She tells the entire truth of how she used to be a domestic terrorist back in her home country, how she's actually had to kill, why she's come to the UN to be part of the, and not only that, a romantic interest that she had, which is the reason why she doesn't go back to Africa. It's like, it's everything I ever want to say, and everything. And she's just at the end of it, she is emotionally drained and so open in that point of that you're so open. And I know a lot of people, maybe not, or at least I've experienced it, that you're so open that all you want to do for that person and or as the person is to be comforted. And sometimes that comfort is sometimes drifts over to being a sexual comfort, but it's that intense, it's a comfort that you don't, it's a vulnerability that you don't see often with anybody. They are bare, you have, all the wounds are there, and hold on.
And you allow someone to take care of you.
Ooh, yeah. So,
Does that sound
thanks for making me cry for all the ones I've done already. So I'm just like,
Does that sound familiar, given everything you have shared with me in the last 10 minutes?
Yeah. Oh yeah, it is very familiar. I know that.
It is. So I'm going to say Nicole Kidman's character uses her facade of intelligence and calm to hide a badass who's taking people down, who's who she is inside, right? That that Virgo, calm, I'm organized and peaceful. The Aries who wants to tear down the world and make it all right.
Yeah.
So the reason I make you answer all these questions and do all these workbooks is so that by the time we get to the scene, you actually have a beautiful psychological analysis of this character. What you just said was gorgeous. This person who holds it all together, who finally goes, it's actually not together. It's a hot mess. And can you please take care of me? Because in my face I show to the world, I don't allow anybody to do that. I beat them back with my brain. Now the why is very interesting, because if you're going in for an audition for that character, you play it very differently than she would. So we have to understand why. Now you can tell me what you think, or you can tell me the next scene, because I bet you the next scene will answer that question.
What, the why?
Why does she hold it all up like that? Why does she not show this vicious, emotionally rabid badass fighter? Why does she not show that?
She has, in the same scene, because she has this principle. Oh, it's my favorite line. Because she kept it all away from everybody, because they would never let her near the UN, because she's an interpreter at the UN, and she believes that the UN has, oh man, I'm about to go verbatim. The UN has the only way of ever stopping genocide.
Okay.
And yes, I believe in politics and negotiations as being a way to permanently stop it, even though it's slower than a gun.
And she's used the gun.
And Sorry, I'm really emotional right now.
That's
But,
beautiful.
yeah, it's like, it's everything. It's everything. It's oh.
You are the messy warrior for good who just on GP don't want to be messy in public because it might hurt your cause.
Yeah.
That's a really complicated chord. It would mean that you would walk into an audition with so much more complicated stuff bubbling because that's how you see the world. That's a very unique way of seeing the world, right? That's why it's coming alive in you as you talk about it. Why it's like vivid. And why I asked folks when they were choosing their scenes to intentionally choose someone that didn't look like you so that you would focus on their emotions and the strategy they use to get what they want. You answered all my questions there. My first question was, what does this person want? How are they changed by the end of the scene? Vulnerable. But a warrior who doesn't feel like there's any time or permission to be vulnerable. Give me one more scene.
Joy Luck Club.
Okay.
Yeah, I'm going back. Joy Luck Club, 90s movie for those of you who don't know. Talking about, it's an American movie, but it's about American Chinese women.
Mm-hmm.
And this is actually in one of the flashback sequences,
Mm-hmm.
where this little 9-10-year-old girl is living with her mom, who has now married a wealthy businessman because the businessman had seduced her with money and then ended up raping her mother. And yeah, mind you, this was my favorite movie since 8 years old. But anyway,
you are
yeah.
a warrior. Okay, warrior mama. What happens in this scene?
So we're getting the backstory before the actual scene because so the mom is noticing that her daughter is being seduced by the same things that she was seduced by: money, by material things, and everything. And she sees that being as a weakness. And she tells her daughter, in order for you to be strong, I'm going to kill myself. So the actual scene that resonates with me so much is actually the funeral scene. So it's at the funeral. Mom is dressed in white, laying on the table. Everyone's dressed in white, traditional Chinese outfits. And the daughter is standing over her mom. He says, "Mom, I'm stronger now. Look at me. I'm going to be stronger." She turns around and takes a look at that businessman and first wife and second wife, and looks at her little brother who was the product of that first rape. And she, with a power, grabs her little brother, stands up there and berates the rest of the family for how awful they treated her mother. And so much that the businessman comes up and says, I will treat your mother as if she was my first wife. And therefore, you will now become my first children, my honored children, which makes them at the top of the totem pole. And then the real first wife tries to put in her condolences, and she just yells at her and frightens her back. And she grabs some fake glass pearls, and grabs them in her hand, crushes them, slams them on the table, and yells out, "Mama." Ooh. And then goes to present day, and this is the little girl, all grown up, telling this story to her daughter, and she says, "And that is when I learned to shout." That's the end of. Oh,
I just got goosebumps! Wow.
I used to quote that all the time. No one knew what I was quoting. I was like, I love that.
And that was when I learned to shout.
And that is when I learned to shout.
So her mother did kill herself?
Yeah, the mother,
Make her
in
understand.
the flashbacks. So the flashbacks are in China. The present day is in America, probably 1980 something.
So let me attract this emotional cord. The mother killed herself on principle to stop the daughter from following the faulty path that she had chosen.
Yes.
It's a pretty intense way to teach your child something, right? But again, it's like Nicole Kidman deciding to be in the UN when she's really a terrorist, but she's a terrorist to prevent genocide, but she believes the UN is the best way to do it. So, right? It's having this huge principle that you're willing to do something really above and beyond and maybe not so necessary, but the principle is guiding the action because it's to save someone else, her daughter.
Yeah.
And she is successful because she's learned how to shout. Wow.
Mm-hmm.
The warrior who learns how to shout. Finally. When their principles stop stopping them from shouting.
I cried after in doing this exercise, I hadn't seen the scene in over 15 years. I was back at home with my parents the last time I saw that scene, before college. And I managed to find it on YouTube without subtitles for the Chinese bits and bawled my eyes out. Just seeing the scene, not seeing the whole movie, bawled my eyes out after it. And it's,
That's your chord.
it's my little core.
I want you to start writing about that.
Yeah.
I want you to find me. You have 2 examples now of this chord. I want you to find a 3rd example and flesh out the language of the warrior. So when we're creating these chords, you always have a short version
Mm-hmm.
of the chord. The warrior who finally learns how to shout.
Mm-hmm.
And then 2 or 3 sentences that really describe how they learn to shout. And use the examples of the movie. They're being stopped by their principal in the faces they need to show the world. But they finally get rid of that face and shout what they really believe. And the universe rewards them. But they got to hold on to that principle for a long time before they actually learn to shout their truth and demand what they deserve. So start fleshing that out. That's a great start. You need 1 more example.
One more example.
So now you have your first chord. Now, who's going to do their exercises in the workbook for next week? Because I will do this 1 more time next week. I will take 1 more person through their first chord. Thank you, Alana, for being so brave and for doing so much work. That's a lot. You sent me a lot of pages. That's a lot of work, but you're in it. You're in it, Mama.
Yeah.
So exciting. It's so exciting. You're like such a little nice girl. I would never think. I was like, she's been messing with her. Take down the whole building. Okay, because we got to save the peoples. All right. Before I go further, are there any questions? Anthony, you still busted? Okay, that's all right. All right, great. Now, we are actually almost out of time. So I am now going to go back to the screen and talk through the rest of this class. So what Alana and I just did would be the first 2 weeks of homework. So you will have done the homework ahead of time with me, okay? This is what I've taken Hillary through, and I want you to meet Angela for a couple of minutes, who's going to talk a little bit about her process. And before she talks, I will tell you the funny story of me and Angela. Angela was a New York off-Broadway New York actress who is very petite, so she was always playing 12 and 13-year-olds off-Broadway. I wrote a play, Good Bread Alley. It was workshopped at New York Stage and Film and New York Theater Workshop. And I was committed to casting her in this part, but she had no reel. So I had to fight the director and the casting director because they did not know her work, and they wanted to put movie stars in who had reels. When you have good emotional branding, you always have a reel. Angela didn't have one. I fought for her. Now I'll tell you, as a writer and producer, if you fight for an actor and they don't deliver, you are in a shit show of trouble with the theater and the producers. So I put my neck out on the line. The first day of rehearsal, she came in. She was practically off book. She was standing up doing a performance during the read-through. She had done the songs, rehearsed them, and did them full out without being coached. She had done her work. Everybody else around the table was like, shit, we got a lot of work to do. After that read-through, I was like, I knew you could do this. I said, but come here. And she said, yeah. I was like, it was amazing what you just did. She's like, oh, thank you. I was like, but listen to me. If I see you next year this time playing a 13-year-old off Broadway for $200 a week, I'm gonna whoop your ass. And she was like, oh. I was like, you don't have a reel? You're supposed to be a movie star. You need a reel. You are Angela Lewis, television and film star. So you need to get your butt to LA and get on some branding. And she looked at me in horror because I could see what she could not see. A year later, she was in LA. She was still taking my classes online. I didn't know she was taking them. She was doing all the free classes. Like I'd given you guys tons of information. And one day I got an email from her and she said, okay. The email was about 20 pages of all the homework she had been doing. And she was like, do you want me to send more? She had done all of the stuff. She said, I've done as much as I can on my own. I'm ready to coach now. I'm in LA. And I was like, whoa. She got married. She moved to LA. And I was like, whoa, what's on the line now? And she's like, I'm up for 2 parts. One's in a movie and one's series regular. And I want it to happen. I was like, great. So we started working on the chords. By the end of our first 2 classes, she had booked a series regular on John Singleton's new show on FX, Snowfall. Not as a 12-year-old, which she'd been playing in theater, but as a grown-ass mafia kingpin auntie, a hard, tough chick, totally against physical type, because she had done the emotional chords exercise and had taught her team, this is how you need to start sending me out. Prior to this, Angela didn't have any television and film credits. So I don't want to hear any of this bullshit where people tell me, oh, the emotional chords thing, it won't work for me. Angela was not rich. She had no TV credits. She had some theater credits, and that was it. She was in LA for 6 months, working her emotional branding, getting seen for stuff that was truly in her deep emotional chords, and within 6 months was a series regular. That's called hard work, doing the work, and believing. And doing these exercises and getting the language so that you can stand up for yourself. So let's listen to what Angela has to say. There's a short video and a longer video. I'm going to play a short portion of the longer video.
Hi, my name is Angela Lewis, and I play Aunt Louie on FX's new hit show, Snowfall. And I am also a student of April. I like to think of myself as a student for life. And a part of being a student for life is that you're kind of always in the unknown. So I'm learning how to be comfortable in the uncomfortability of life. And so I could equate that to there always being a little bit of a fog. You know, things are hard to see. You don't know which way you're going. You're not quite, fully adjusted. Without April, I would be in a deep, dense, charcoal gray fog, trying to figure out which way to go. And everything I would just be a lot more unclear. And so I'm really, really grateful to have a lot of that fog lifted from working with April. So thank you, April. And I encourage everyone to take class with April in some aspect. She's got a lot to offer, a lot of words of wisdom, and she's crazy and hilarious. Hi, My
So
name is
I'm
Angela.
going to pause the video there, and you can come back to the page and watch the whole interview. It's about 12 minutes, because I really want you to hear from Brittany about, I mean, the proof is in the pudding with Angela. She booked the series regular. That's all there is to it. You can't argue with that. Brittany, unemployed actress I met at Maggie Flanagan's studio, went out there, did the whole routine auditioning with everybody, couldn't book nothing, and she was like, it's time for something new. And she's like, I'm ready to coach. She came and we worked on the emotional chords. She had no credits, no theater credits, no film credits. She just had good actor training in a 2-year program, but she had no credits. She booked the starring role of The Purge 3, a huge movie franchise. It changed everything, and hired a team, and then ran meetings with her team like a CEO. I'm going to let you hear from her.
I remember when I decided to start studying with April. I actually chose to study with her because I overheard her talking to one of her current clients, and I could tell that she had an eye for what her clients need, or the things that make her client like special. Like, she wasn't just giving you cookie cutter information. It's like she could see you and hear your goals and understand where you're coming from, and actually give you great direction and great feedback and great ideas. And like, she's just like taps into you individually, as opposed to just like, here's some cookie cutter stuff for you to follow, A, B, C, D. Like, it was very specific, and I valued that because I got a lot of cookie cutter advice from many other sources. So it was a breath of fresh air to work with her. Working with April really demystified a lot of things. And the one thing that I felt was like impossible, that I just thought I was going to have to deal with, were my nerves surrounding big meetings. Actors, you know what I'm talking about. When you finally get the opportunity to sit across from the table from someone like an agent or a manager that can change your life, change your career, make your dreams come true, you have all of this pressure on your shoulders to like say the right thing, wear the right thing, what do we talk about, like all of these questions and things would flood me and overwhelm me, and I would just do my best. But after working with April, I know how to bring my best forward. Once I get into that room, I am so confident. I have my press kit ready. I know what I want to talk about, and I don't even have to think about it. I just have to be me. And I could not have done that if I did not work with April. I'm an overthinker. I'm a girl that's like, ah! Working with, and the work that we did, oh my goodness. So if that's something for you personally, or you're like, that scares me, even if you just work on that with April, that's going to change a lot. Okay. Since I started working with April, so much has changed. Like, I've been working with April for, oh my gosh, like 2 years, just about. And I booked my first major motion picture after starting to work with her, and I have new reps. I understand what to do in those meetings. Like, those meetings used to terrify me, and now I'm giving friends advice. I have a better idea of headshots. Headshots are demystified for me. These last 2 years, so much growth has happened for me. I have things on my list that I can check off that I only dreamt that I would check off in like 5 or 6 years, and I did them sooner. And I have so much more confidence in what I'm doing and my craft, and also as a businesswoman, because this is a business. And when you're working with April, she's not gonna let you forget that this is a business, and this business is your business.
I love that girl. I love that girl. All right, y'all. I'm gonna talk about this class right now. Before I do, does anybody have any questions? I'm listening. Any questions?
No question. No questions.
Okay, I'm gonna go through the classes now and give y'all the deal that I promised. 40% off. All right. So the emotional chords class is available in 3 different forms. I'm making it possible because private coaching is really expensive. I'm $500 an hour. And Hillary and Brittany and Angela, and that's still interesting, we're like, you have to find a way to make this available for more people. And I was like, okay. All right. For folks who have purchased the previous emotional type class, it was a webinar, a recorded webinar, it was self-driven. It's a lot different from the 12-week. So the 12-week is by invitation only. You click here to apply. And guess what the application is? It's the free mini course. You have to do it to completion and send me all of your workbooks, okay? When you sign up for the 12-week, you get 8 weeks of homework in advance. You saw Alana's first 2 weeks of that pre-advanced homework tonight. She's been working fastidiously on it. These are the steps that we work on in that 12 weeks. How to identify limiting belief systems so that you can now establish goals and get things out of your way, and you can establish your actor emotional branding goals. You know what you need to work on. You know what you need to release in order to set an agenda for figuring out your emotional chords. We identify your core soul songs for your emotional branding. Your soul song is your emotional type. It is how you manifest these 4 life lessons that you are learning in this lifetime and getting right. So we identify what that soul song is. We turn it into 4 emotional chords, all right? And we work through it the way that I worked through with Alana, so that you start to understand and get a language for your chords and for your psychological makeup that you can begin to communicate like an actor, which is what gets people excited, right? Once you have that language, you can then package yourself to your agents and managers and run an agent manager meeting like you're the CEO of the company, okay? The way that we do this is through all of the exercises, the list making, the questions, the reframing the anatomy of a lie. When you do the mini course, you will see the beginnings of that exercise. It's about all the lies that you've been told about who you are as an artist, and it's about us undoing those lies, okay? The True Node North analysis is to establish, okay, these are the strategies you're currently using in the world to get what you need. What are the things that you need to learn how to do better to get what you need? Because that's actually the key to knowing your emotional chords, but it's also the key to laying out a business strategy for yourself. There's something that you're very good at that you're avoiding that is getting in the way of you putting together a brand. And we are going to examine that, take it out, shake it out, move it out, and re-strategize around it, okay? We are going to look at archetypal life lessons. There's a chart. You go through the chart by category, and we will create what your major archetypes are. And then we will begin to create a list of scenes that you will work on with me and get coached, and we will put them on a reel, okay? So each of the scenes will reflect a different emotional chord that you're good at, and it'll be from somebody in a movie that looks nothing like you, so that your agents, your managers can see this reel and begin to understand, oh, okay, so that's how I should be casting emotionally. That's what she can do, right? I always give the example of Judy Bowman coming to see me in my solo show, and she had cast me before, and then at the end of my solo show, she said, I had no idea you could do all of that. I was like, well, I wrote my solo show based on my emotional chords because the industry was not giving me enough work so that I could show them what I could do. That's what your reel is about, but you can't do it until you've fleshed out these chords. Then we spend those next 6 weeks, once we've had the 4 chords, we do branding of those chords, right? So that your headshots, your audition outfits, your hair and makeup choices, how you walk out into the world casually, commercially, your photo shoot, Should it be an indoor shoot? Should it be an outdoor shoot? Should it be shoots? Should it be in character? Should it look like an independent film? All of those things are determined by your emotional type, okay? Then we move on to branding on Instagram. Your Instagram is a very powerful tool, okay? The woman that is in Game of Thrones, the sister, why can't I think of her name, Alana, with the red hair, that actress, Sophie Turner, she was cast because she had the highest Instagram numbers over other actresses in our series regular, in the highest grossing show HBO has ever made because of her Instagram following. You can feel a way about that, but you can feel a way about that as Sophie Turner collects $800,000 in residuals every year for the rest of her life. Do not play with your social media following. You will see that all of my clients who have done this emotional cords exercise have followers in the yin yang, starting at 15 and 20,000 followers, because I make that a priority in our work. And Instagram is a great way to really start to curate your emotional brand, okay? We do a how to prep for the headshot shoot and the final selection of the photos so that we make sure they're right in your emotional cords. We do an emotional type reel shoot prep, where we prep all your scenes, we prep the hair and makeup, we prep the costuming, we prep location, the whole nine. And if you want us to shoot the reel, we will do that. And that's a separate class that you can do on a payment plan. We'll give you a deal if you're taking the 12th step. We do emotional branding of your website, your Actors Access page, your reel, your headshot, your press kit, and the way that we put them on social media, on your Facebook page, on your Instagram page, on your website, on your IMDb, right? So that you have a consistent message across social media. So someone types your name in, your emotional branding pops up, right? And the really exciting thing is the emotional branding pitch session. This was a great idea that Angela had, and I'm doing it. You're going to prepare at the end of our time together. You are going to prepare your first board meeting with your agent and your manager. You're going to send press kits out ahead of time via Messenger, and you're going to set an agenda and call a meeting. And you are going to teach me, your agent, how to start pitching you according to your emotional cords. We're going to do a mock session. You're going to come in your hair and makeup, your full look, your entire press kit done. And we're going to work through that meeting so that you have a script to give them and you're speaking from a place of power. The 12th step is badass, which is why you got to apply for it and you can't just have it. There's a 6-week masterclass for folks who haven't done any of the emotional cords work, okay? Where in that class, it's where we start from the beginning and you get the first 6 steps of the 12-week class. So essentially, the 6-week class, you will leave knowing your 4 major emotional cords, which is a lot of work. So that is my promise, okay? Then there's the recorded option, which is a 12-step. I have 12 steps for everything that I teach, right? From acting and writing to on camera. The 12-step Dreaming Out Loud Emotional Cords class is a self-driven class where you log onto your page, you get your 2-hour master class at the beginning of every month, okay? And then each week under that class is a different set of weekly weapons, which are exercises that build on the master class, okay? And so essentially, the 12th step is a recorded version of the 6-week class, okay? With the 12th step, you get a new master class every month, 3 weekly weapons. So each month you get an emotional type office hours with me on Facebook Live once a month to ask questions. Okay, you drive that process, okay, at your own pace. So if I take these classes, what do I get? If you apply for the 12-step Dreaming Out Loud Mastermind group, you send me those workbooks tonight, and I will give you an answer tomorrow, whether or not you're in. There is 3 spots left, okay? So there's a section 1 of the 12 step and a section 2, because I filled up the section 1 earlier. So I opened a second section. There are 3 spots in that section. So if you want it, you better come for it, okay? And what makes, the 12 weeks so exciting is that it's basically small group private coaching. There's never more than 4 students in a class. So you get lots of attention from me. 2 hours a week for 12 weeks and 17 hours of homework ahead of time so that we can really grind. Okay. You get a reading list. You get a supplies list of everything you're going to need. It's all laid out. Okay. How much does this cost? A lot of money. Okay. I will say this, it's cheaper than private coaching. So 14 hours of private coaching at $500 an hour, how much is that? You do that math. I'm really, really bad at math. I'll tell you what that is in a minute. So the regular price for the 12-week is $3,200. Okay. The early bird special is $2,800. Okay. Monthly payments start at $400 a month, but that's without tax. So you got to look at tax and finance charges. With the 12-week, you get an extended payment plan option that is only available until midnight tonight. Okay? The extended payment plan option is a 6-month payment plan. Okay? I want to fill this class tonight. All right? That option is only available until midnight tonight. Okay? And you get a free copy of the 12-step class. Plus, you get a 30-minute one-to-one private coaching session with me if you buy by midnight tonight. Okay? The regular class is usually $1,500. It's on sale with the early bird special for $1,200. Payment plans start at $350. Okay? The 40% off sexy deal here with the 12-step is amazing because it's a $1,000 class. The early bird special is $597. That's 40% off. Payment plans start real low. Get to it, people. And this page will go live in about 40 minutes. So you'll be able to get in here, look at your prices, and do what you need to do. All the bonuses and these early bird prices disappear at midnight tonight. It goes back up to regular prices. So that is the skinny. Do I have any questions, comments, thoughts? All right, folks. Thank you so much for joining me. Thank you, Antoinette and Alana, who have already purchased the 12-week class, because they did their applications already. And yeah, ask me questions. Early bird special ends tonight at midnight. If you're gonna do it now. And feel free, any of the emails you get from me, you can respond and ask me questions at aprileve@thompson.com. aprileve@thompsoncoaching@gmail.com. Bye, you guys. Bye, guys. Oh, and to find the class, go to thedreamunlocked.com and click Dreaming Out Loud Technique. It's right there. Or just sign up for our mailing list and I'll send it to you. Dream Unlocked.